Alright, so this is going to be the first video that I've done for this, so we'll see how it goes. I have tons of audio and video equipment in the house, and none of it really is ideal for miniature videography. So I'm having to kind of cobble some things together. You can see my desk is a giant mess. That's pretty much how it goes 24/7. We're going to do a little textured leather on the cloak here, just something real fast. We can probably do this whole thing in, I would say, 10 minutes. Maybe even a little less. We'll just have to see how it goes. So yeah, the technique is somewhat similar to dry brushing. Not exactly dry brushing. There may be a little bit in there, but yeah. So you're going to need a short bristled brush that you don't really care about. These makeup brushes. These are e.l.f. brushes. They're fantastic for this kind of work. A big one, if you can find a little smaller one like this, it works really well too. And then we're going to put some scratches and stuff in the leather towards the end. If you want to do that, you're going to need some sort of finer tip brush. So get your brushes wet, just get them kind of ready to go there. So we're not going to get this bad guy wet, really. We're not going to get this one wet because we're going to need him to do some pretty harsh paint. So this really needs to be primed black when you do this. If you try to do this based on white or even a real light gray, you might be able to get away with a dark gray. It's going to make your life miserable. So all we're going to do is we're going to start doing some stippling motion. So we're going to take, thicker paint works better for this, but you can do it with thinner paint. It's just easier with thicker paint. And the goal here is going to be a lot of variation. We're going to try to do mostly darks in the shadows and mostly lights, but then we can kind of clean it up afterwards. You'll see what I mean. So we're getting most of the paint off, you can see, but we're not getting all of it off. And then we're just going to literally kind of stab at it like that. And the trick is we don't want to fully cover everything. If you see some dark, if you see some black showing through, that is okay. And you're like, did you just do that from a paper towel? I certainly did, and that's okay. Alright, so we've got kind of a real spotty, you can already see it just, we didn't cover it all the way. It's real uneven, and that's what we're going for. So we did one brown. We're just going to step through a bunch of different shades of stuff because we really want to create a lot of different texture. Any kind of earth tones is good. You don't have to be real picky. So we got, that was a dark umber. We're doing like a thornwood green. This is one of my favorite colors. I love this color. We don't really have to wait until it dries here. And we're just kind of dabbing that all over. So see how that's just looking like it's got a bunch of funky colors on it. And that's what we're going for right now. Hopefully that's showing up. We've got a slightly different, this is Battlefield brown. Yeah, I like the P3 browns and earth tones a lot. They're really good for this. So we're trying to stick mainly in the shadows here, but we're not having to be real careful at this point. So you can see we're just getting a lot of variation. This is where we're going to break out a little bit of blue. And somebody's going, what, blue? Yeah, blue actually looks really awesome on this. We're just doing a little bit here. So this is a fairly dark blue called Exile Blue. And we're just mixing it. I'm actually doing this on a paper towel. This is, you don't really want to do a wet palette for this. If you do all this on your paper towel, you just got to work real fast, but it makes it so that all this just happens real easily. And we're just stabby on it. But the blue looks awesome. It gives it little patches of almost like gray, because when you mix brown and blue, you get this real awesome gray. And you can thank little Dallas Kemp for saying that Exile Blue and Battlefield Gray are basically magic, and they really are. It looks pretty awesome usually. All right, we're gonna start getting up a little lighter here. We're gonna move to kind of a red, reddish brown, and we're gonna try to stay out of our dark parts at this point. If we get some in there, it's not a big deal. We're going to come back after we do all this with a little bit of a glaze here, but you can see that really we're getting some nice variation. And we're just going to focus on just hitting, yeah, see, we're getting, see what we're doing? We're stabbing at it. We're not dry brushing, we're just dabbing. Okay, now as we get towards more of the highlight light, it might become more of a stab because we really want to focus mainly on just catching. It might become more of a dry brush because we want to focus mainly on catching the edges. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to move up to Rucksack Tan, which is a great leather color. And we're going to take that and we're going to put a little bit of that over the reddish brown so that it tones it down a little bit. And I'm doing this on the paper towel still, which somebody's like, I have never heard of that in my life. And yeah, it's just something I do sometime when I don't really think I'm going to care about the colors too much in the long run. And you can see, look at that, we're just dabbing that on there, keeping on the highlights. And right now all we're doing is creating texture. Now this is the point where we're going to do a little bit of dry brush. We've gotten most of the paint off here. We're going to dab it over here and we just want to catch these upper parts here. Give them a little more definition and catch some right down there. And he's looking pretty awesome at this point. He's looking messy, but that's what we're going for here. Alrighty. So we're going to do one more final highlight. We're going to mix this in with our tan here, our Rucksack Tan. This is a Moldy Ochre. This is a real yellow color. It's not super bright, but it's going to look really bright against all these dark colors. And we're going to have to be real gentle with this because if you're not, I'm just barely touching the model here, guys. If you're not real gentle with this, it's going to look weird. And we're just kind of lightly dabbing it. Trying to keep mainly on the ridges here. And then we're just going to lightly catch. All we want to do is just the tops here. And maybe one or two other. And you can see we've got just a really nice, lots of texture. But, you know, there's a lot of, it's almost too much at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a few steps now. We're going to add a couple of scratches. So this is where we're going to take a thinner paint that we've got a little more control over. These are the new Pro Acryls from Creature Caster, Monument Gaming, Slow Fuse. I have no idea what their actual company name is at this point. I'm so confused about that. All I know is that their paint is freaking amazing. And we're going to put just a little down. You can see it's like crazy thin. It's, I don't know how well that's shown up on camera. It looks like it might be overexposed a little bit. So we'll do it on this. You guys should be able to see that. So see how thin that is? It's like really thin. Okay, so, but we're gonna thin it down just a little bit more. This is just some, I like to use airbrush thinner. This is golden. Ooh, that sucks. First time webcam stuff, guys. Bear with me on hitting the camera and crap like that. Alright, so we're just going to thin this down just a little bit, and somebody's going, oh my gosh, he just got paint in his ferrule. It's like, it's okay. Brushes are not that expensive, guys. Use what works. Alright, so we're just getting a little bit off, and all we're going to do is we're going to make little tiny scratches. This is where we're just going to make little all over. Most of those probably aren't gonna, we're just being real light. This is one point where I'm not gonna spend too much time here because this is where if you wanted to do it real nice, you could really spend a lot of time. So we're just going to add a few. And I like to do little X's. I'm a little thicker on some of them than I normally would, just so they show on camera, because otherwise it doesn't show that well. So I'm also just catching some of these up here a little bit more. Give them a little bit of highlight. Alrighty. So, uh-oh, going too far. So we're going to take a little bit of water. We're going to see if we can cover that. Yeah, we're just erasing that a little bit. So if you catch your mistake fast enough, you can mostly erase it. Look at that. There we go. Alright, so at this point, we've got a lot of texture, we've got some highlights. What we've done though is we've almost made it too messy. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of push everything back down together. We're going to glaze it with some of this Scale 75 chestnut ink. This stuff is basically magic in a bottle. For leather and things like that, it is absolutely insane. It is the best stuff ever, but it is super strong. If you do not thin it down with something, you will regret it. And then you're going to be like, why did my whole thing go chestnut all in one go? And I'm going to be like, yeah, that's because I told you it was super strong and you didn't thin. So see, even thinned out, it's still really quite strong. So we're going to keep thinning a little bit. Alrighty, and we're just going to add some of that. Now, I don't think I ever used this brush. Well, I guess you don't really need it for this. This kind of depends on what you do. Now at this point, this is easier. With a bigger brush, you can use any brush you got. I prefer to do glazing and stuff like that. This is just a number 2 watercolors. This does not have to be super precise. What we're going to do is we're just going to cover everything with a real thin layer of it. And it's just going to kind of tie all that together and make it a real, yeah, look at that. It's just really coming together. This is unfortunately a step where after this step, we kind of have to wait for a few minutes. And I hate waiting. Alrighty. Alright, so whilst that dries, we're going to talk about some of what we've done. So what we did was we took a bunch of dark colors and we stippled using a fairly big makeup brush. Using this brush helps a lot with this. All right, so we are 11 minutes in right now. So using this brush helps a lot with this. You poke at it, you're not really dry brushing. We're trying to create a bunch of different texture. The more colors you work through, the more of that texture you're going to create. You do not want to cover all the work that you did every time. You are trying to remain with some of that texture still, okay? I chose not to go very bright on the highlights down here. I'm viewing that he's got a pretty strong overhead here that's not really going to hit too much down here. Like it's coming in more like this on him. So, you know, you can. He could definitely have stronger highlights here, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to draw focus to his face. Like, I don't want a bunch of bright stuff down here, because otherwise what's going to happen is the viewer's going to look down here, and we really want them to look up here. Like, the cool stuff on a model is almost always the face. You don't want a bunch of bright, flashy things that are drawing your viewer somewhere else. Okay, so we are almost dry. Normally I have a little space heater that goes on, but I was trying to not do that for you guys. And then really we've just got one last step. We're going to take, I love this stuff, it's Purple Tone by Army Painter Quick Shade. I love their washes and their tones and stuff. I hate their paints. So what we're going to do with this stuff is we're just going to kind of put some of this in the shadows. I'm trying to decide if I want to risk it with the chestnut ink is still a little wet. I am not going to risk it, because then it's going to go awry. And then I'd have to reshoot this video, and then there would be much tears and gnashing of teeth. And I kind of like the way this looks right now, so I don't really want to redo it. You know, I may clean it up a little bit at some point, but I like the heavily textured nature of it. So we're going to make sure we can see down here where it's still a little shiny that it's still a little wet. So we're just going to give it a moment. somebody is going, well, why purple? That's because purple is the greatest color in the universe. And of course, my monitor, there we go. I'm gonna have to remember that. Purple is the greatest color in the universe for shading. It goes well in tons of different color shadows. So if you've got browns, if you've got leathers, if you've got greens, if you've got all these different kind of colors, that if you drop some purple just real thin in their shadows, it really boosts up the contrast and the color of everything else. It makes everything look more awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here in these brighter, these darker shadows down here, and we're just going to lay some of this in there. And then I think I rushed it a little bit, but we'll survive. So we're just going to kind of make sure. There we go. See, doesn't that look awesome now? Gave it almost a little red hue. This is not what I would describe as a reddish purple, but it does that. So we're just going to kind of come over here. And then we're going to kind of come down here. And if you try to do this stuff with a small brush, you guys, it will make your life more difficult because it will not appear very blended. Like, you will not really want to do this with a size 1. Bigger brushes are really the key to getting smoother blends and honestly making everything a lot faster. So you can see right now what we've done is we really bumped that up. And see this edge right here? We're just going to take this and we're just going to kind of feather that out a little bit. And there we go. We're going to call that done for this purpose. We got a lot of contrast. It looks good. I will take a better picture of it potentially. We'll see. And get it up. But that's how you can do pretty decent little worn leather cloak. Especially looks good on the tabletop. It's got lots of contrast and really pops. It took us right at 15 minutes. So thanks everybody for watching, and hopefully this goes okay with me editing this video. Thanks guys.